Hello and welcome, this is MechCommander, and I'm going to be starting a new series covering the game MechCommander 2, which is a spin-off series that came from the popular MechWarrior series of games. And this game was released about the same time as MechWarrior 4, and I have previously covered the game MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries in a series on my channel, and I am also currently doing a series covering the backer beta of BattleTech, and BattleTech is the universe that the MechWarrior series is based upon. So, MechCommander is a spin-off of the MechWarrior series, where the MechWarrior series, it's more a simulation where you are a pilot that commands lances of mechs in combat. In this case, you are a commander not in the battlefield, you are commanding lances of mechs from an outside perspective and an RTS style of gameplay. So we're going to go ahead and start up a new campaign here. I will point out that this game, I didn't really remember this. I did remember this about the original MechWarrior 4, but this game is pretty FMV heavy. So the second I hit this new campaign button, we're going to see a interesting FMV introduction into the campaign. This being released at about the same time as MechWarrior 4, and MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries has more or less the same background as those do. This is going to be placed in the FedCom Civil War. So let's just go ahead and jump right in, and you can see the FMV and get a little bit of a background of what's going on in the campaign. And just like MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, we are going to be a company of mercenaries. All right, so we're going to be doing the Carver 5 campaign. You can do a training simulation, which is just a series of missions or tutorials that are going to teach you how to play the game. I've already done that, so now I'm just going to go ahead and load in here.
Massive damage in what looks to be...
More fighting could erupt at any moment.
Certainly confusing times. The question of where to place loyalty.
Across the inner sphere, the civil war between the noble houses continues.
Open warfare has divided the Federated Commonwealth in several...
The conflict between House Steiner and House Davion rages on.
New tensions in the Chaos March threaten to again spark fighting between former comrades. Colonel David Renard and his executive officer Major Kelly have peacefully divided the command of their forces on Carver 5. The longtime friends carefully separated their troops into House Steiner and House Davion military containment zones. Colonel Renard had this to say about the Davion withdrawal.
We needed time to regroup, to look at ourselves, ask who we were. Where did our loyalties truly lie? For me, and the brave men and women under my command, the answer was clear. They were with Archon Katrina Steiner. They weren't with any rebels. But I am here to tell you, the first shot will not be fired by anyone under my command.
This was the scene on Carver 5 just 2 days ago. In a series of daring raids, a bandit army consisting of tanks and light battle mechs seized several Steiner outposts, stealing supplies and capturing several weapon facilities.
Archon Katrina Steiner was quick to rule out the deployment of additional troops to deal with the bandit threat.
Sending additional Steiner forces to Carver 5 will give the Davion rebels another excuse to bathe a peaceful planet in blood. An alternative solution must be found.
Nerves are certainly frayed in the Steiner territory.
Refugees continue to stream from the planet.
Still more bandit attacks.
The mercenaries are due to arrive shortly, ending weeks of speculation.
I'll ask you again. Was it smart for the Archon to hire mercenaries to deal with the bandit army on Carver 5?
Of course it was smart. It was the best thing she could have done. Think about it. Mercenaries don't care about sides or politics. They care about getting paid. All of the great houses use them. Liao, Karita, Merrick, even your precious Davians use them. That's why the Davian commander has agreed to this solution. Kelly knows that once the bandits are dealt with, the mercenaries will pull out.
Looks like we're already famous, Commander. They think we won't be staying long, but based on the supplies you ordered, I'd say you've got other plans.
All right. Now, there is going to be some kind of glitchiness in between missions. I'll try and edit around that.
Check. 1, 2, check. This is Tactical Officer Diaz. All right, sir, we're online. FedCom software is pretty reliable, but we need to run some systems checks to make sure we're fully operational. At the beginning of each mission, you should review our objectives. You can access them at any time by hitting the Objectives button.
Welcome to Carver 5, Commander. I'm Colonel Renard. While under contract with House Steiner, you will be taking your orders from me. A bandit scouting party has entered the area. I suspect they're here to get a glimpse of you. Time to earn your money.
All right, let's go ahead and go over the interface really quickly.
Here we go, sir. Objective 1 is to investigate an abandoned airfield for bandits. The airfield is located at the number 1 on your tactical map at the lower left of the screen.
Okay, so what they were just saying there is in the lower left of my screen, and I can actually pause at any time by hitting the escape key, and there is also a pause button on the interface. Pretty standard for RTSs of the period. A lot of your shortcut key commands are also buttons that you find on the interface itself, and you will luckily have the actual key binding listed here in the tooltip that is just above the mechs in my command. So just about here, you're going to see the tooltips here. So for instance, pressing the spacebar will tell the mechs to do a run command when I do the left mouse button to click. Now, one thing that's a little bit different about this game is, at least for RTS is the era, I'm usually familiar with left click to select, right click to order a move. This left click does pretty much everything. A right click, all it does is move the camera around. So that is one thing that you can do pretty nicely, is you can move the camera around in this game. All right, but let's go ahead and go over the interface. First, we have the map, and there is a number of tabs here. The next tab is going to be the support palette. And these are things that we can call in to support us on the mission. So we've got airstrikes, artillery that we can call in, and so on. There's a number of things here, and I'll go over them in due time. We also have a number of resource points. These are the points that are assigned to us for each mission, and you'll note that each of the different support items that I choose has a cost. So we have 22,000 points, and there's various points costs for each thing. So for example, sensor probe being one of the cheapest things you can do, puts out a sensor probe to give you sensor contact data in an area of the map. That costs 2,000, fairly cheap. Other things like airstrikes and artillery barrages are going to be a little bit more expensive. Moving on, you have the unit info. So if you click on any mech, you're going to get some information about that mech. So this mech here is a bushwhacker. It's 55 tons, and it is indeed a mech. And then we have some information about the weapons that are in the mech. Now, if you are familiar with BattleTech, either the video game or the tabletop game, or you're familiar with the MechWarrior series of the games, I will point out that this game is quite a bit dumbed down from your standard MechWarrior game, where you're going to have more in-depth weapon systems. In this case, the number of weapons that you have is been reduced drastically. The exact loadouts and everything have been simplified, so that is something that you're going to have to get used to. Now, as far as the mechs that I have in my command, I have 3 currently, and 2 of them are of the same type. So we've got Hacksaw here, who's piloting a bushwhacker of the Prime loadout. So once we get into the mission loadout area, you'll see that we can customize loadouts, and then we could name them ourselves. So rather than Prime, it would say something else. We have another bushwhacker being piloted by Longshot over here, highlighted in green. And then finally, we have a Razorback, which is going to be our main scout mech. Now, you'll note that there's this little triangular symbol over Flash, who's the pilot of our Razorback. That indicates that this mech has jump jets. So when I select this mech, I have the command to jump actually selectable. If I select a bushwhacker instead, that is grayed out because this mech does not have jump jets. If you were to select multiple mechs, which you can either do by pressing the shift key and clicking either down here or on the map, you can select multiple, or you can do your drag box selection, as is pretty standard in RTSs. And if I have all 3 selected and only one of them has jump jets, the jump jet command is not available. All 3 would have to have jump jets. And then if you did have that jump command, it would be to the distance of the range that is shortest of the 3. So for example, if the Razorback had a pretty decent long range jump jet, but the Bushwhacker had a shorter range one, then we would be limited to the Bushwhacker's jump range. Okay, let's take a look at some other things that are in the interface. So we already talked about the buttons. Let's talk about things that you can do as far as commands. So you can do a normal move command. There isn't even a button here, I think, for it. What that does is just left click and you'll move. So let's go ahead and unpause here and we can see that happen now. So I left click.
Complete. Good. Let's do a weapon test before we engage any hostiles. Order all units to destroy that hangar.
She's talking about this hangar. So left click and they walk. So when you use the left click walk is going to be the same speed for all of your mechs. So they'll keep up with each other. But if I issue a run command by holding in spacebar, then left clicking, it will issue a run command, and then the mechs will run at their top speed, banking on the pathing as well. Sometimes if you have a faster mech in behind a slower mech, the slower mech will block the pathing of the faster mech, and then they will run together. But more or less, they'll run at top speed. So the Razorback has a higher top speed. It will start outrunning the Bushwhackers. So if you want to get somewhere quickly, that's the best way to do it. But keep in mind, it will split up your units. Now, as far as the map, of course, we can just left-click on the map to move around the map if we want to, just as a way of navigating. Again, standard RTS controls. We can move the view around either by doing the scroll option or using the keyboard cursors. And then moving on, we also have guard, which pretty much tells the mechs to stay put and fight anybody that shows up. You can give this command to a particular building. So if I clicked on this and then I said this building, they would protect the building. So if enemies showed up, they would engage the enemies, but then when they were done engaging, they would return back to this building and continue guarding it. And you can also guard things that are moving objects. So if you had a convoy, you could issue a guard command on a truck, for example, and the truck would move along and the mechs would keep up with it more or less. You also have, stop and stop whatever you're doing and hold your grounds, and that's just going to be the backspace key. I will point out that the key bindings are kind of all over the keyboard, so if you want to set up your own key binding, I think that's something that you'll want to do, and I believe that is something that is possible. Yeah, hotkeys. So if you want to do your own key binding, you're free to do so. I don't know if that changes the tooltip. I'm going to assume it doesn't, but I've just kept things standard. And then that's pretty much it. It's not that complicated of a RTS. So let's just go ahead and click the building. They'll attack. Now the one thing about the mechs is they can move and fire. So if you tell them to attack something and then you tell them to move away, they will continue to attack. All right, we have got some infantry that's going to show up here. So we're going to try and murder these guys. So right now, I can order them to move around, and they're going to continue to still attack, even though I'm not clicking on the enemies to attack. So as long as they have enemies within range, they will continue to attack. And there we go. We wiped out the infantry. That wasn't that tough of a challenge. All right, we got something coming over here. Let's go ahead and tell my mechs to run and engage. So now they're going to move full speed and get up at close and personal and attack. Now, your different weapon systems are going to have different ranges, and this is something that is kind of simplified in the game because weapons only have one range band in this game. All right, they've got LRMs here, so we're going to want to get close to them to destroy. Okay, so we've got more contacts here. You'll note, right now, we don't see the vehicle. Well, there is a line of sight in this game, but there's also sensor contacts. So right now we have a sensor contact. That's why we know this is here, but we can't actually see it. So we're going to have to establish a line of sight if we want to be able to attack. So let's go ahead and tell them to run over there and attack this object. So it's another LRM carrier. So while we're moving, we can fire our LRMs off. And we're going to want to continue to get close here. Now in this game, we can move in the water, but only if it's in the shallows. If it's deeper water, we cannot move through it. Okay, we got another hover vehicle here.
Objective complete.
Okay, so we killed that bandit patrol.
Nice work, Commander. We should repair our units before engaging more enemies. Check your support tab and call in a repair truck. Remember that support is limited by our resource points, or RPs, so don't waste them.
All right, as was explained, we have RPs. We have a certain number of them. We're going to use a repair truck here, and what this is going to do is call in a repair truck to repair us.
Affirmative. Repair vehicle inbound.
And this is just another item that you now can command. That's going to be with the rest of the group. Now, the repair truck only has that one function, and you can see its white bar above it. That's more or less, it's kind of its health bar, but it's also its usability bar. As it repairs things, it's also going to damage itself, and once it runs out of supplies, it's pretty much dead. So, okay, we can continue. And the repair truck, we'll just put it over here somewhere. Repair truck, go over here somewhere. Okay, and the rest of us will go back, and of course, we'll switch back over to the map so we can see what's going on.
Objective.
Okay, so we've got a couple contacts here.
Sir, we've got more bandits on the other side of this forest. Even though our line of sight is blocked, we can still detect them using the sensors on our Razorback Scout mech.
Yeah, and that's the Razorback that gives us better sensor range and ability. And you can give your mechs skills, or your pilot's skills, and we can get more information out of the sensor contacts than we currently have. Right now, we don't really have any clue what these are, but they appear to be mechs.
Target confirmed.
Urban mechs, to be exact.
Copy target. I copy.
Okay, knocked that one out.
Flash here. He's mine.
Managed to blow off, I think, its arm there. Oh, this one was still alive. Okay, I'm going to tell my Razorback to get out of there. Okay, I'm not sure where you're going.
Enemy destroyed.
Okay, where's the Razorback? Over here?
That's gotta hurt.
Objective complete.
Okay.
Here's a good opportunity to salvage an enemy mech, Commander. Select the salvage craft from our support tab and target a disabled urban mech. One of our MechWarriors will fly in and take control of it.
Okay, so
Flash here. Back in
let's take a look at these guys. I'm going to try and salvage this one because I think this one had an arm blown off, and you can't really repair that. So what we do is you just grab the salvage craft. That costs 10,000 to use. You just highlight the mech you want to salvage, left click.
Roger that. Salvage craft is on its way.
And a repair craft is going to come over here and start repairing stuff as well. And we'll also grab the Razorback here, tell it to come back. So one of our pilots just entered the urban mech that we just salvaged, and our repair is probably going to be better off repairing that first. And as we can see, the pathing issues here. See how the Razorback was stuck behind the repair truck, not really able to use its speed? Okay, so we're going to repair that on up. And then we'll repair the damage of the other mechs in our loadout, or our lance. Okay, so as you can see there, meat only got repaired so far because I guess there were systems blown off. It's a little hard to tell with the interface that you have. But we can take a look at this guy. So he would normally have two lasers. Those have been blown off. All we have is the medium autocannon. And that is how the autocannons are referred to as. It's a medium autocannon. It's not an AC-10 or something like that. Although it's, I think, supposed to be an AC-10. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab our mechs here. And we're going to get back into action here. So we have a little bit more support left, but not a lot. We could call another repair truck, we could get a scout copter, we could get a mine layer, but nothing really combat effective for us. So we need to get over to our extraction point, which is at 6. I'm just going to remove the repair truck up in case we do need it. Now, the one thing I will point out is pilots are irreplaceable in this game. You lose a pilot, they are dead forever. So, and you have no way of ensuring that you can get another one, as far as I understand it, at least what the manual had to say.
Mech power-up
All right, so we've got some enemies here. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this urban mech and just make sure that we don't lose it.
These guys are pretty well equipped for bandits.
Long shot here. I'm taking fire.
Okay, we've got an enemy mech here.
I got him.
Let's try and take out the vehicles real quick here so that we only have to deal with the mech now. Well, the one thing about mechs is they will move to their ideal range. Because the urban mech only has one weapon, it's going to stay back like this.
I'm getting beat up in here.
Okay, so our bushwhacker's in trouble. Okay, we might just have him. Okay, we got him. Oh, not quite.
Nice work, Commander. That looks like all of them. I've got Colonel Renard standing by on VidCom.
All right, let's just get to an extraction point. We know that's the end of the mission. And everybody will run over there. Now, our bushwhacker got a little beat up there, but we'll be okay. Unfortunately, I can't salvage the... What was it called? A Star Slayer? Because we used up all our resource points. Oh, and of course, the urban mech's taking forever to get here at full run.
Objective complete.
All right, there we go. And this is just giving me a summary of the amount of money I'm going to get from this mission. So these are my objectives, and each objective is going to get me paid. So varying pay rates, and there sometimes are secondary missions, which are totally
Mission
optional.
Successful.
Okay, so right now what we're getting is a summary of what each pilot was able to pull off. So our first pilot didn't really do a whole lot, but Hacksaw did, and he was promoted as a result. So now we have the option of giving him some skills. So we've got Light Mech Specialist. This is going to make him have some ability to evade damage if he is piloting a light mech. Now, Hacksaw was not piloting a light mech in this mission, so that really isn't going to benefit me too much. Unless I, of course, do assign him a light mech, so I could decide to do that if I wanted to. Laser Specialist, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If you're using laser weapons, he's going to be more effective. Light Autocannon, this is specifically, I guess, just for light autocannons. And then you have Medium Autocannon, and we also have SRM Specialists, so for short-range missiles. Use those, you'll be more effective. Small Arms Specialist, this is specifically flamers and machine guns. And then finally, as I was talking about, if you have somebody with skills to improve their sensor ability, then you get more information from the sensor context. So, ability to discern additional information from sensor readouts. Level of information increases with pilot's rank. And then finally, we have Toughness Specialist. This is just going to be the pilot itself, their ability to withstand injuries, and I think also their ability to eject from a destroyed mech, so you have a higher chance of surviving overall. Alright, so out of these, I think Laser Specialist is very tempting because it covers the most types of weapons. That or Light Mech Specialist, and then we'd have to make sure that we remember that he has it, Hacksaw that is, and assign him a Light Mech. For now, though, I think Laser Specialist is the way I'm going to go. Now, of course, I'm going to have to equip his mech appropriately if I want to use this at its best. So let's go ahead and select Laser Specialist. We only get one, and then we hit done. And you also get medals, so participation medal there. Long shot got a number of kills, medals awarded. And also got a Purple Heart for getting wounded. And then me got a participation award. Good job. We're the kind of mech command that hands out participation awards. Okay, so there we go. We got all of our participation awards and the one Purple Heart and one level up. And as we go, this next time this guy levels up, he's going to have a different selection of things that he can choose. I think you might have repeats, so you can re-choose something you didn't choose in the past, but we'll also see new things. Like, for example, this time we only had light mech to choose from. Next time we'll probably see medium mech as a choice. All right, so let's go ahead and hit done here, and we'll get right into the normal mission briefing.
Well done, Commander. This is Ambassador Yi, House Steiner's political representative.
Let me go ahead and stop that and restart that.
Well done, Commander. This is Ambassador Yi, House Steiner's political representative on Carver 5.
A pleasure, Commander. You handle yourself well.
Remember, you may have no contact with Davian forces. You're here to prevent a war, not start one.
Carver 5 was once held by House Liao, and there still is a sizable population of Liao loyalists here. You are warned to stay well away from them. We want to know incidents.
Let's get on with it. The bandits have taken one of my outposts. I want it back. Your tactical officer will give you the specifics. Recapture the outpost, Commander. I want this over as soon as possible.
Okay, so our mission is the reacquisition of base Gemini. Steiner Base Complex has been taken over by bandits, an embarrassment to Colonel Renard. Eliminate defenders and recapture base headquarters. And this we can see the campaign map, so as we get more missions, they will show up on this map. Right now we only have one, so this is the only one we have to select from. Once we select that, we can hit next. We're going to get our mission briefing from our, I forget the exact title, but more or less our logistics command.
Our orders are to handle this quietly, sir. I'd be embarrassed if bandits took one of my outposts, too. The bandits seem limited to short and medium-range weapons, so remember to bring in some long-range mechs.
Okay, so she just gave us some help or information that's going to help us with this mission. So this is going to be the main details of the mission. So we have to capture a resource building as our main objective, and then we have to destroy all bandit forces occupying base Gemini. So looks like really we only have this little bit of the map to explore at the moment, or that the mission is going to take place in. It's possible that we'll have more objectives as we go into the mission. Bandit forces surprised and captured Steiner Base Gemini and the Atom Sector, forcing the garrison station there to retreat. Colonel Renard has postponed most of his meetings because of this and has ordered hourly updates on the situation until this base is recaptured. Your orders are to eliminate bandit presence at Base Gemini and recapture the headquarters building. Steiner Recon reports bandit composition of urban mech and fire ant battle mechs with significant LRM carrier and hover tank support. Okay, tactical officer notes. Okay, tactical officer. That was the rank I was looking for, or the job I was thinking of. All right, bandits took a Steiner base. I'd hate to be the officer to let that happen, so we kind of already heard her say that. I know urban mechs carry medium-range autocannons, while fire ants are mostly armed with short-range flamers. I'd suggest good long-range mechs with some short-range backup. You don't want to get yourself into a knife fight if all you've got are LRMs. The bandits use a lot of vehicles too, which are slower going uphill, so if you're getting swarmed by a bunch of centipedes, move to the top of a hill and pick them off as they try to come up after you. Okay, so let's go on to the next bit. And this is really what I want to showcase here, and this
is our Mech Bay, Commander. Here you decide which mechs we take on the next mission by placing them on the deployment team. You're only limited by how much team weight we can transport to the deployment.
So as we can see here, here's the current weight, 170. Now we have that urban mech, so as we can see here, 30 plus, what was 55, I think? Yeah, 55 times 2, and then another 30. And there we go with our 170. We can, from this screen, modify each mech individually. We'll take a look at that in a second. We can buy sell mechs. And right now,
this is where you can purchase battle mechs from our current employer. Most houses offer different mechs depending on how much service we've provided. So the longer we've been working with them, the better our choices are. I check back here every few missions to see if we've got something new.
Okay, so we only have a few mechs to choose from. Right now we have the Bushwhacker, Hunchback, and a Razorback. Now we're familiar with the Razorback and the Bushwhacker because we just used that in the last mission. The Hunchback would be a new mech for us. If we look here, we can see the tonnage. So Bushwhacker's at 55 tons, Hunchback at 50, and Razorback at 30. And just below the tonnage, we can see the cost of each of these mechs. So the Bushwhacker is the most expensive one at $56,550. And if we look at our current amount of money, we have currently $123,000 to use. So we could purchase more mechs if we wanted to, although currently we have to consider the total weight that we have to use in the mission. And really, 2 bushwhackers, a razorback, and an urban mech fits in our tonnage perfectly. Now, we could sell that urban mech, for example, and then buy another razorback if we don't really like the urban mech, as an example. But let's take a look at what we have here. So when we click on a Hunchback, we can see that it has 1 heavy autocannon, 2 lasers, jump jets, and 2 armor out of 2. So some of this might be confusing, but we'll take a look at it once we get into the modification screen, which we're going to take a look at right now. So let's start off by taking a look at this urban mech, for example. We'll modify. Actually, let me take a look real quick before and just see what it says. So it says 2 out of 2 lasers and 1 medium autocannon and then jump jets. So it doesn't have armor slotted in, but we'll see exactly how that works here in a second. We also have the Razorback, for example. It has armor listed. But really the important thing is that you look at is these stats over here on the left. So we've got the 30 tons. We've got short range attack. So this is going to tell you where I think most of the weapons that you have are going to be at as far as range. Then you have the armor amount. Then you have the speed. So urban mechs are quite slow at, I believe this is kilometers an hour. Yeah, it just says right here, kilometers an hour. So 54 kilometers an hour as opposed to the Razorback at the same tonnage of 97 kilometers an hour and our Bushwhacker at 86 kilometers an hour. So the urban mech is going to slow us down quite a bit if we use it. We have the jump jets and the distance that the jump jets can cover. So this is the same whether it's the urban mech or the Razorback. And I believe this is what, in meters? Yeah, distance in meters. Okay, so let's take a look at the modification.
This is the Mech Lab where you can change the weapons and armor on a mech and remove its jump jets. Cash can tell you more.
Sir, weapons are my specialty, so let me give you some advice here. Every weapon generates heat, and each mech has only so much heat capacity. So when you're adding those killer guns to a mech, watch your heat capacity. A little tip. Adding heat sinks gives you more heat to play with. And remember, armor and machine guns don't use any heat at all.
Okay, so he kind of gave you a little bit of a synopsis of how this works, but just to summarize it really quickly, because this is something we're going to be taking a look at in a future video in more detail, but more or less this is slot-based. It's very simplified. There's no real limitations, so right now we have jump jets. Now, only mechs that can equip jump jets will have this slot. It's a special slot that can only be filled by jump jets. So if we want to remove this, we just, I believe we can double click on it. There we go, and it's removed. And now what that does is it gives us some cost back. So we would get 6,000 credits back if we just save this right now. We can also balance this with the equipment we get as well. But let's just go back to those jump jets and re-equip them for now. And you note that that also modified the heat that we have here. So the way that heat works in this game is, again, super simplified. Heat is not factored at all in game. Instead, it just factored into the setup of your mech. So you have a cap, 22, and as long as you don't go over that cap, you're fine. It really doesn't affect the way the mech works. So right now, we're well under that cap, so we have a lot of room to move. So right now, with the weapons we have, and I'll go over the weapons right now. So we have heavy autocannon, medium autocannon, light autocannon. So this is simplifying things yet again. Normally speaking, in the BattleTech games, whether, again, the game itself or the tabletop game or even the MechWarrior games, which were, again, more closely based upon the BattleTech series or game, or universe, you had AC-2, AC-5, AC-10, and AC-20. Now, the heavy autocannon is quite obviously the AC-20. The medium autocannon, I would say, is kind of like the AC-10, but the one thing you're missing here is the AC-5. So that's either the light autocannon, or maybe you're removing the AC-2 altogether, or this is kind of a mixture between the AC-2 and the AC-5. But either way you look at it, you have 3 different autocannons. Now, you'll note, if I click on each one, you'll see the range here. So short. The way range works in this game is very simplified. So each range bracket is a set range, and you can't attack outside that range. Now, there is some overlap, but if a weapon is short range, it's in that short range band. If it's in medium range, it's in that medium range band. And medium range weapons do have a minimum range. So at the very close-in point-blank ranges, a medium-range weapon will not be able to attack a mech. This is very different than the way that most other BattleTech-based games work, because usually speaking, a medium-range weapon will work just fine at closer ranges. That's not the way that this game is. And then long range, it's a similar story where you have a certain range bracket and you can't shoot anything outside that range bracket. Again, there is some overlap between the different range brackets, but every weapon only fits one category. It's not going to fit multiple ones. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, at least in your head, how this works. But in any case, the heavy autocannon is going to be short, medium autocannon is going to be medium, and your light autocannon is going to be long as far as the range goes. So that does kind of keep in with the whole BattleTech normal universe. You have the damage, so 2, you have the rate of fire, and this is, let's see what it says, the rate at which the selected weapon fires per 10 seconds. So this weapon can fire 3.3 times in 10 seconds. Okay, moving on, we've got finally machine guns as our last of the ballistic weapons. So this is broken into ballistic, I believe energy, and then missile. So ballistic weapon, this weapon is the only weapon, one of the only weapon, actually, as a matter of fact, it is the only weapon that does no heat, so you can put these on all day long if you want to. And then you have, again, range short. So a machine gun has the same range category or same range bracket as an AC-20, which is not the way that it works, again, in the normal BattleTech game, where a machine gun would be by far and away shorter range than an AC-20. But again, you just have to get used to that. You have the damage, which is 1, how many times it can fire per that 10 seconds, so 4 times. And then, of course, again, the heat. This one has 0. If we go all the way up to the heavy, you have 7, 2, 1. Moving on to the energy weapons. Normally speaking, ballistic weapons are going to be, well, in this game, there's no weight. You'll note that there's no tonnage stat here. Really, it's just size. So they try and simplify things by making the number of slots that a weapon takes up be a simulation for how heavy it is. So you'll know if we get over to a large laser, it doesn't take up all that much space. It only takes up 2 slots as opposed to the medium autocannon, which takes up 6. So that's kind of how they're doing that. So energy weapons are going to be more space efficient as far as your loadout here, but they're going to build up more heat. So again, we have the same kind of stats. So we've got medium range, and our PPC's medium range in this game, which is a little bit different. Large laser is medium range, flamer short, and then you have your laser. And again, is this a medium laser or a small laser? They're kind of combining the two into one category. Finally, we have our missiles, which are broken down into 2 weapon systems. You have your LRM rack, which is going to be your long-range missile, and then you have your Streak SRMs, which is going to be your short-range missile. And they have removed all the different types. So you don't have an LRM-5 and an LRM-20 and everything in between. You just have an LRM rack, and that's it. And these only take up 1 space, so I guess the way that you would theme this is if you had an LRM-20, then you'd have more LRM racks than you would if it was an LRM-5, for example. And then finally, our last category here is heat sinks, armor, and jump jets. So just to show real quick, we're going to remove all the systems, and you'll see that I can pretty much fit anything in here. So earlier when they were saying 1 armor, what they meant by that is they are using 1 slot of additional armor, which you can see adds in overall armor to the mech. So we can do that one more time before we hit our maximum of armor. So this is as much armor as we can put on an urban mech. We can also put on heat sinks to improve our cap as far as the heat that we can have on our mech, or not if we don't want to. And if we wanted to, for example, put large laser on here, we couldn't do any more than that, though, because of the heat exceed. So let's say we wanted to put another large laser, then we would put a heatsink on. Of course, we'd want to move that a little bit. Well, doesn't really necessarily matter. Now we could probably fit another large laser. And there we go. And then we could finally fit a normal laser if we wanted to. And there we go. There's a weapons loadout. And then all we'd have to do is hit accept. We'd save that in. We'd call it a new variant of this mech. And then if we had another urban mech, all we'd have to do is go over into this, select this, and then select the version that we saved. Right now, all we have is the Prime because we haven't saved any ourselves, but that's more or less how the modification system works. So it's very simplified compared to other things that are based in the BattleTech universe. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but yeah, that's pretty much the way it works. And I think this is going to be the wrap-up point for this video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is MouseGunner, signing out.